With that, I'll turn it over to Ranking Member Warner for his opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for not only working together on this, but a whole host of other projects. I do want to make sure that the audience acknowledges the fact that Mike Rounds was one of the senators who hung in on AI. I remember a year and a half ago or so when this was fresh and new, and we'd had these bipartisan meetings, and there'd be like 30 senators for the first meeting. The second meeting got down to like 12. The third meeting got down to like 8. By the fourth or fifth meeting, because this is really hard stuff to get and understand, but Mike Rounds hung in through the whole process, and he is a great, great person. I say this to my colleagues, to partner with on a lot of projects. I also want to welcome the witnesses. I really do think your testimony is going to be critically important, as we all, at least in my feeling, I still need a lot to learn on the constantly changing evolution of AI. I think back, way long ago, 3 years ago, when I felt like whoever's going to win the AI race would be who had the most data, then it was who has the most compute. Now I think it may be who has the most electrons. But this is clearly an emerging field. And in financial services, I see great opportunities for improving efficiencies, dealing with costs. Senator Rounds just went through some of the areas in terms of fraud prevention, all great upsides. But with so many new technologies, there's an upside, but there's also potentially a downside. And I think we need to understand that. And hopefully, we can set some guardrails that will help provide certainty. Certainty is clearly what the regulatory environment needs to be, certainty in what the risk of deployment, and certainty in the fact that if there are risks, how the law will address them. And I don't think we can underestimate this. For example, I've been working with Senator Kennedy on this committee and looking at specifically the financial sector and AI. If to me, as somebody who was part of the original Dodd-Frank, where we set up FSOCs, if it seemed to me if there was ever a item that was tailor-made for FSOC in terms of its original intent that look across all the regulatory channels, it would be AI, because it touches so many parts of our financial markets. And we hope, again, that legislation will move forward so that we can have that kind of broad-based approach. We've also seen, I think, AI, Senator Rounds listed some of the positive aspects that we've seen on risk mitigation. But I've recently seen where I think AI can be used candidly in a very anti-consumer way. And that's what Delta Airlines is starting to do in terms of AI tools used for what I would call surveillance pricing. We all know there's surge pricing. Tickets for planes cost more around the holidays and cost more to go south in the winter than it does in the summer. That makes sense. But surveillance pricing, where Delta has basically enlisted an AI, Israeli AI firms where they have collected massive amounts of data. Do we really want a airline to know that if you've got a death in the family and you need to go to town or city X, or maybe not so dire consequences, if you've got Taylor Swift concert tickets in city Y and they know that, and they can individually price to collect a few extra dollars? And this is not an imaginary tool. They're talking about moving from 4% to 20% in their own market. Other airlines have started to see with the pushback. We're not going to do that, but they've predicted that you could increase profits for the airline industry $4.4 trillion. That's a lot of money based upon a surveillance pricing scheme that I think we at least ought to have more information about before we move forward. And finally, one of the things that Senator Rounds and I work a lot on in terms of competition with China. And China is not playing for second place in the race for AI. And one thing that I believe, and I think we see this in AI, is I think there was a presumption amongst many, and myself included maybe a couple years back, that China was good at potentially stealing technology, but they weren't that good at innovation. I think that's changed. I think China in too many domains is innovating close to the race, close to the level that we are taking in this country. And we desperately need, I think, AI policy. I think this subcommittee's work will be a start towards that, and I welcome the witnesses, and again, thank the chairman for holding the hearing.